Hey, welcome back to Tips Over Tea. I am Nicole, your host. This episode will be a little bit different than normal, still in the wellness arena, because that is the focus of this podcast. But instead of talking to those who are looking for a wellness provider, we are talking to the wellness provider themselves. If you're a personal trainer who wants a better connection with your clients so that they can get better results, then this is where you'll want to tune into today. So with that, grab your tea, grab your notebook, and listen in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tips Over Tea. I am so excited to introduce you to Morgann. Morgann, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, me too. So we are going to focus on people who have a business in the fitness area because you have a mentorship program, yes?
Yes, I do. I do,
Awesome.
and it's a passion of mine for sure. So I'm excited to chat about it.
Yeah. So tell me, what got you started in that? Because you started off training people. Tell us a little bit about your background, your story, where you started, and how you ended up into the mentorship space.
Yeah. So I've been in the health and fitness industry for coming up on 15 years now. When I first started, I started out of the trunk of my Nissan Pulsar, little, as I call it, the tin can car. I asked my parents for a Nike Spark training bag of equipment one Christmas. And that's what kind of started me off training people. I literally had just bands, some hurdles, a Bosu ball, which I laugh at myself for now, but I had a Bosu ball that I carried around with me everywhere. And, trained at parks, went over to friends' houses, trained them there, and just started to just dabble in fitness. Had no idea what I was doing, really overall. Created the basic paper sheet programs and everything. My first business I called, because something I should note, I was a basketball player all through high school and as a kid. So my first personal training business I called 3 Point Fitness, because I thought I was going to work with just all the basketball players and everything that way. Never did. But that's where my brain went. And then from there, I went into school, continued working on my business, but went and took sort of traditional post-secondary education in kinesiology. So I have a degree in kinesiology with a focus in sports psychology and pedagogy, which is coaching and education. So that really put me down the path of wanting to understand humans more, right? I was passionate about the physiology of humans and movement and fitness. And my schooling then also pushed me towards the psychology of humans and the psychology of who we are and what we do. Fast forward from there, worked at a couple different facilities, one of which is now the facility that I co-own. So my business partner, she opened up one of our facilities about 10 years ago, and then I opened up our second facility with her 5 years ago. Nice. And so that facility is Function Health Club out here in British Columbia, Canada. And so we have 2 brick and mortar facilities and a team of right now we're about 19 coaches on our team that I oversee and develop and work with on a day-to-day basis. And so in the long story short, that whole experience over those 15 years of working at different facilities, different modalities of training, digging into neuroscience and sports psychology and understanding people more, and just working with probably now, I don't know where I'm at with total number of clients I've worked with over the years, has really opened my eyes to various aspects of the industry as a whole. What the industry is, what it has been, what it's evolved into, what business looks like within the industry, because even in 5 years of our current newest facility, things have evolved and changed dramatically in the industry, let alone in the last 15 years. So that experience and all those experiences I've had have really moved me towards wanting to help other coaches that are coming into the industry. I had opportunities that came to me when I had my business, or when I started my business, I should say, the one facility recently, where I had university students coming to do mentorships and needing to do practicums and whatnot. And so I started to dabble in it a little bit that way. And then I had other people start to reach out and, they're getting their personal training certification and wanting to ask me some questions. And that just kind of organically grew into sort of what it is today. And especially over the last couple of years with everything that's going on in the world, there was a transition in the industry towards, more online and just a different type of approach when it comes to training and working with individuals. And when that all happened, there was also a spike in questions that I got at. So I kind of looked at it and went, okay, what can I do with this? Right? I want to make this something tangible. I want to make this something that I can actually have structure to. I like to create systems and structure, and that's something I'm big on when I work with coaches is like, what are the systems that we're creating that make your life easier, make the client's journey better, etc. And so I wanted to create some form of structure around it. And so I came up with my Coach Mentorship Academy, which is helping coaches, develop their business, develop themselves as a coach. Not all of them have their own business. Some of them work for other businesses. And I just am there to help guide them along their journey as a coach and help them unlock what challenges they're facing, whether it's in their business or whether it's as a coach on a day-to-day basis.
I love that. Well, if nothing else, the fact that you started out at the back of a car is a clear indication that you're passionate about what you're doing.
I've been through it, right? Like I've gone from there to here, so I've experienced.
I love that because it gives the potential coach like an understanding, like where they're at, like when they're starting off, like what it feels like when you're starting off, and the fact that you can recall that helps you get back into that space. You're like, you haven't grown to the point where you forgot where you came from, so to speak. So that makes you a good mentor for them, right? You can like, I get it, I hear you, I know where you are.
Well, that's, I think, a piece too with it is that gave me insight into keeping things simple and looking at, the fitness industry and the sometimes overcomplicated ways that things are made out to be. Yeah. And that experience, as much as I didn't know what I was doing from a business perspective when I first started, my programming's, I don't know, they probably sucked, right? Like I didn't really have any idea. I had experience myself from being trained by people and taking a course. And so I was like, I don't know, let's try this. And that really did help me overall, because when I talk with coaches now, one of the main sticky points that most of them have is overthinking, right? They get in their own way because they're stuck in this hamster wheel of thinking like, is that exactly the right thing to program for that person? And is this exactly the right structure? And is this da-da-da-da-da? And that experience that I had helped me early on to go, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be like exact. And if something doesn't quite work, we can change it and we can tweak it, and we can adjust. So that I think was helpful. And I'm glad that I went through it that way.
Yeah. I can imagine, when a coach comes to you and they learn that about your story and they're like, you know what, I'm going to be okay.
Totally.
And that isn't, you did say something important though, because a lot of times, and we've talked about this before, sometimes in the clubhouse rooms in the past, that all or nothing mentality. Like if I don't do all of these things, I don't know where to start and I get stuck. Yeah. And you mentioned one of the biggest challenges is them getting in their own way. How do you help them shift out of that perspective and realize that it's okay to iterate as you go? Like, how do you get them comfortable enough to release that need for perfection and, all that?
Yeah. So obviously it depends on the context of what we're focusing on. However, in most cases, as simple as it sounds, it comes down to getting them focused on one thing at a time. Because in the industry and because of the nature of working with someone, there's a multitude of factors at a time. And so what I spend a lot of time with coaches on is really getting clear on what they can control and what they have control over within their business, within, the relation with their client. Because, for example, I was on a call a couple weeks back with a coach, and one of her clients had injured herself in a session. And it was a conversation that we had that was important, because she was getting kind of enthralled in like the notion of like, oh, my client got hurt, and all of these things about herself as a coach, and like doubting and this and that, and sort of this big snowball effect. And it was an important conversation to have, as far as, well, what does this actually give you control of, right? In that moment, you now have the opportunity to look at what you can do better, what that client could potentially do, what your systems in your business could improve upon. Like, how do you follow up with that client? What structure do you have in place if someone does get hurt? The realization that people are their own individual, and guess what? Things are going to happen. And that doesn't mean you're a terrible coach. So what does that mean that you're able to do? So it was a good opportunity to kind of highlight the controllable factors, and then go, okay, what's my next step? Right. And so when I work with coaches, when I talk to them, they often come, I often ask at starter calls, like, hey, what's on your mind? And it's like this blah, 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 like mind dump of everything. I want to get that out first. So it's like, I'll write down all the things that you're like, this is on my mind right now. And we get all that out. And then it's like, okay, what is the first thing that you feel you want to focus on? And then they usually go, well, this. Okay, cool. And then we start to work through that process. We start to take that down to its basic roots. Like, what does it look like? The literal first step in order to do that thing, right? So for a lot of coaches, programming is a tough thing to focus on. Like they feel overwhelmed with it, right? So, okay, what is it about the programming that's overwhelming for you, right? Is it that you don't know what to program, that you're overthinking the exercises that you do, the various things? So one of the things that we might do is sit down and review programming. And I'll sit there and I'll walk through a program with them. They'll send me an example program of one of their clients, and we'll sit and walk through it, so that they can start to see and work on that skill of just what it actually is to program, what they should be looking for and thinking about, and what it means moving forward from that day, right? Not getting lost in like, well, what if this doesn't work? And what if it's like, great, what if it doesn't work? If it doesn't work, that means you can go, they didn't respond to that thing. They didn't respond to this thing. And so I think to answer your question in short, is taking the big complexity of it all and taking it down to its micro first step, and getting them just to focus in on that, because they get so caught up in the big thing that we often need to just go to that first step. And that can be applied across the board in their business, for social media to programming to business growth as a whole. Is like, what is just that first thing today that we're going to take action on, right? I like to call them areas of opportunity. What are those areas of opportunity today that we can do?
Yeah, I love that. It's chunking it down. Chunking it down.
It's obvious when we say it, but it's hard in execution, because it's I know I need to just do these one thing, but oftentimes, and this is the psychology layer of this, is that we often need someone else to kind of say, no, here's what you're focusing on. Right? Just as much as we as coaches working with clients basically need more accountability than anything. They need someone to say, I need you to do this thing. And they're like, okay, they know they need to do it, but now they've been told, right? The nature of us as humans, right? And so same thing with coaches, is like, they know that they should do it this way, or they know that they need to improve on that thing. Maybe they don't know exactly how, but they also just need someone to kind of give them a little nudge of like, here's the first step. And then build that empowerment within them to feel like they can do the next step, and that they can do the next thing after that. And when you start to do that, then they start to just come up with all the ideas and the answers themselves. It's great to sit back as a coach and I can just be like smiling, because I'm like, you're getting it, right? Like, you're doing the thing, right? So I love
that. What came to mind when you were sharing that is, well, for one, you're like, they're on training wheels, and then as they like get the self-trust piece is what it's like you are kind of confirming, yes, this is what you need to be doing. And like, they'll get on their head, should I? And it's just like that questioning, and then having you there to, yes, you were correct. This is where you're supposed to go. Oh, or did you consider this? And I love the way it's empowering. Like you're not telling them what to do. This is like what to look for. And that is what's invaluable about having a mentor because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
Right. So
exactly. And to that point, you know, one of my big things that I will like stand on this hill, right? I will die on this hill, is that coaching is more about connection and communication than it is about technical skill.
mhm.
The industry is chock full of 6-week program to build your glutes and this and
Yeah,
that and the next thing, right? All
yeah.
of this technical skill base. Education is all technical skill based as far as human physiology, right? I went to school for kinesiology, and what did I learn? I learned about the systems and about the anatomy and all the things. Did I
Mhm,
learn about humans? No. I learned that in sports psychology because I
mhm.
took that, but in what most coaches are exposed to, they're not exposed to how to understand connection and communication with someone.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's not instilling my personal belief on like a system or a structure or a way of programming, right? I have
Mhm.
a certain way that I program for people. That doesn't mean that that's the right way for that person or that person or that coach. And
Yeah.
so my focus is wanting to, as you say, empower coaches to find their groove, to find
Mhm,
their lane that they enjoy showing up for. Because
mhm,
if I come in as a coach or a mentor to them and I'm just like, this is the way you have to do it,
mhm.
right? That may connect with some people and it may work for a small percentage of people, just like fitness is the same way. It may
Yeah.
work for small percentage of people, but overall that usually doesn't work. So I want to present like, here's a thought. How does that sit with you? And then
Mhm,
they go, ooh, I kind of like that. And what if I did this? And I let them run with it. And then
mhm.
we refine and then they run with it and refine. And there's that sort of just give the insight from the experience, yes, that I have, and allow them to express their business and their self in the way that works best for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes me think of, the study where employees, and I'm not saying that they're employees, but people like the autonomy, right?
Yep.
They like to feel like they're in charge of their lives, their business, whatever. And so giving them the tools to like navigate
Mhm.
that autonomous relationship with themselves is huge. So
Yeah.
I love that. Before we started recording, you were saying how what you love about your mentorship program is, or one of the focus areas for you is to kind of change the industry, the way they're doing business.
Mhm.
So tell me more about what that means for you.
So for me, that looks like a greater, how do I want to put this? A greater respect for what we do on a day-to-day basis as coaches
Mhm.
and for those that are paying for these types of services, right? I think there's a lot of misconceptions and there's a lot of um, uncertainty about the industry because of the you know marketing and the types of stuff that goes on from a coaching
Mhm.
level, from a product level, etc., that goes on.
Mhm.
And to change that is a tall task, but
Mhm.
to impact and empower coaches to focus more on the connections that they're making with people, the communication that they have with people, how they're communicating with individuals and helping them take ownership over their own health.
Mhm.
Um, that's where this lies. There's a company in the States called Active Life, and I'm not affiliated with them. It's just I resonate with the message that they have, which is bridging the gap between healthcare and fitness,
Mhm.
right? And so their big thing is, there's healthcare, which is more reactive, and there's
Mhm.
fitness, which is, we're being responsible and taking action in that moment to avoid having to end up in the healthcare system, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's that kind of notion as coaches is to for this industry, and the thing that I want to help influence to change is that we're not focus just on being able to show a 6-week progress photo.
Yeah.
That we're focused on changing people's lives. And there's tons of coaches that are doing this, but making the industry more geared towards that and making it have more respect. When people think about a coach, a strength coach, a kinesiologist, whatever, right? Like when they think about these professions, that they're viewed in a light that is of value and importance. And that comes also with helping coaches create careers within the industry, because a lot of personal trainers and coaches and whatnot, this is a side gig for them. And so part of me wants to influence the industry in a way that we're able to make careers for coaches and help them develop careers, things that are sustainable over 20, 30, 40, 50 years that make impact for everyone that they serve in a respectful way, in a way that is not, get rich quick, get lean quick, those types of schemes that are all short-sighted. So hope that answered your question.
It did. And so what drew me to that question was when you were sharing about just teaching them what to look for, what to, how that connection piece. So that's what kind of that made me think of that question. And I wanted you to just share like what your vision was for that. And if nothing else, I know like if it would be great for people, because I don't imagine someone does this work as a side gig just because it's for extra money, so to speak, right? They have some type of passion for it. And I imagine a lot of them would love to do it full time, but don't see how they could. So I love the fact that your program can give them ideas of like how they can shift and be successful in that space. And another thing that came to mind when you're talking about the connection piece, when you do that, then that's when people start to say, hey, you should meet my trainer. Hey, you should work with my trainer, right? And it just, you build like a mini family, right?
Totally. I posted about this today actually on my Instagram, was a message from one of my coaches on my team. And it always makes me laugh, and I was like fired up when I got that message the other week when he sent it to me, because oftentimes trying to influence in a way that goes against the norm, right? Like the norm in the industry is so focused on the technical stuff, the movement, right? And a lot of what I talk about and what I'm, speak to coaches about is rarely about that. And it seems odd for a lot of them, because they're like, why are we spending so much time talking about communication and like connection and like all of this stuff, right? Like, what about like hypertrophy programming? What about this? I'm like, that's all cool. Like that stuff's simple though, right? If you can develop and build connection and understand the person sitting in front of you. And a little bit of backstory, if you do go to my Instagram and you see that post that I made, I know that you saw it today. The backstory to that was I sent that coach a message saying, hey, I'm really proud of you for holding the space that you did. So he was having a conversation with one of his clients, and that client was basically felt safe enough to open up and discuss the challenges that they were feeling with their fitness and their progress and this and that, right? Which is something that comes up in conversation as a coach, no matter what, right? You're not immune to that as a coach. It wasn't so much about that. It was about how he sat in that environment, in that conversation, and how he held space for it. And this is a coach that I've been working on that with, understanding how to better hold space for people, right? And it's a conversation that comes up with me is like, how do you retain clients like you do? And it's not because I have kick-ass programming. I think I program really well. I think I have great knowledge in that sense, but it's more to do with the ability to connect. It's more to do with my ability to communicate and to hold space for people. And it seems kind of like frou-frou when I talk about it. Because people are like, oh, like hold space. Like I'm there, I talk to them, like whatnot. It's like, yes, but it's deeper than that. If someone feels like they can show up and be themselves in an environment that they're already hesitant to come into potentially, in an environment that they're already basically every time they train expressing and exposing themselves to potential failure.
Yeah.
If you can hold space in a way that makes them feel comfortable, calm, capable, then you're going to create that community like you're talking about. You're going to create that dialogue of like, you need to see this person. I have clients that stop training with me, but years later are like, hey, I'm sending you someone, right? Because they know that that person will get taken care of.
Yeah.
And I care way more about that than I do about like, this person got me abs in 6 weeks, right? Like,
yeah,
it's about that kind of thing. And that's, I think, the piece that I want coaches to understand is that you can play in that micro game of like short-term changes for a specific outcome, right? Athletic outcome, you know, bodybuilder focus, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what's going to take you long-term and make impact long-term in the industry and as a coach and make that a profession for you is the picture item, which is understanding how to connect and communicate with people. Because if you do that really well, you can do it across anything, any area of focus for your business.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love that. That's cool. And I'm glad you mentioned that you are still training too. Just in case someone who tunes in who's not a fitness professional. Like, oh, okay.
I still work with clients. I still have most of my client base is like online programming, online client base. And then I work with some about 5 clients at a time, one-to-one in person. That's a more specific demographic that I focus on there. But yeah, I do still take on clients. My focus is on building my team's client base a little more than my own, but you know, that is.
I love it. Win-win. Awesome sauce. Well, as I mentioned before we got started, 30 minutes like flies. Like, look at the time. So I always like to invite my guests to just share how, I mean, it's going to be in the description as well, but how people can get in touch with you, what programs, if you have any specials coming up or any workshops or whatever, please feel free to share that right now.
Awesome. Well, I first and foremost really appreciate this conversation. I'm always honored to be asked to come on and chat on podcasts and on yours, especially because we've connected on Clubhouse and I really resonate with what you do. So I was stoked when you reached out and asked me to come on. So I know we're going to have many more conversations, I hope. So
yes,
with that, my Instagram is, I mean, it's funny. I'm a business coach, consultant in a lot of ways, and yet I'm terrible at my own social media. So I'm so upfront and honest about that because I spend my time just in it with things on a day-to-day basis. But you can find me on my Instagram _Morgann Hodge _ is on there. I'm trying to get a little more active on like LinkedIn and Twitter and whatnot a little bit more here. But that's Instagram's where you can find me. I actually have just recently put up a little Christmas giveaway, which is a beginner's guide to weight training. Which, my company is putting out for people that want just a free little PDF document on that. So that's something that's happening right now. Businesses personally. And yeah, outside of that, you know, you can connect and send me a message there. I'm always just happy to chat if people have questions about fitness business and just want some guidance in that regards. They want some guidance as far as obviously health and wellness and fitness on their own journey. I have a team that is ready and willing to help out in that regard. So yeah.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much. Really, really good nuggets for the fitness professional who just they want to do what they started to train for, you know, like they want to be in alignment with it. Like they want the outcome, the results for their clients, and you're giving them a better way to ensure that actually happens in a more effective, productive way. So I can definitely appreciate that. The holding space is huge, right? Like when people feel safe, then they trust and they know that you have their best interest at heart. So
exactly. Right. We focus on the impact, we focus on that, and then everything else falls into place. If it's alignment with you and it's alignment with what you want to do on a day-to-day basis, then the rest becomes easy.
Yeah. I love it. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Morgan. I really appreciate that. And anyone tuning in live, thank you so much for your time. If you're catching this on the replay, I appreciate that. I ask that you just share with any professional that you know, or if you're looking to get started, hey, you may need to reach out to Morgan. He can definitely guide you. He's been through some things. So I
Awesome.
appreciate you. And until next time, I will see you later. Bye, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click the bell so you'll be notified anytime we upload a new video or go live. And as always, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to post it in the comments. We're always checking that. In the meantime, have a great